revealed how a kind CEO's unexpected gesture changed this single mom's life forever. Incredible. The bustling streets of Maplewood were alive with anticipation as families prepared for the annual community festival. Laughter echoed, and the smell of fresh-baked pies wafted through the air, a tempting reminder of joy. But for Sarah, a determined single mom, the festival was a haunting specter of everything she couldn't afford, a slice of happiness just out of reach. Each day, she donned her armor of resilience, juggling 2 jobs while chasing after her bright-eyed son, Jake. She fought to stay afloat, managing bills that multiplied while her aging car wheezed like an old man, just trying to keep up with the ruthless demands of life. Sarah often thought of dropping her night classes, an agonizing decision that clawed at her insides. Would giving up her dreams make her a better mother? In those moments, a tightness gripped her chest. She longed for the simple joys of family togetherness on festival day, prizes won, smiles shared, laughter filling the air. The ache of wanting suffocated her, leaving her feeling alone in a crowd. Yet, unbeknownst to her, Mark, the compassionate CEO of a local manufacturing company, had taken notice. With a heart big enough to encompass the whole community, Mark had heard whispers of her struggles, an inspiring story of perseverance amid adversity. He had seen her racing from work to school, catching glimpses of her weariness and unwavering spirit. Through the grapevine, he learned of her relentless dedication, inspiring him to take action. On a whim, he decided to secretly cover her tuition, believing that investing in her education was akin to investing in Maplewood itself. But when the day came for the announcement, the atmosphere shifted like a thunderstorm rolling in. The news spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of jealousy among townsfolk. Was this relief a hand up or a handout? A passionate debate erupted between privilege and hard work. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her feet, her heart racing, cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and bitterness mingling with her breath. The approval she sought morphed into judgment, and she wondered if her achievements were valid anymore. However, that judgment brought unexpected allies. Neighbors rallied around her, tears glistening in their eyes as they shared their own stories of sacrifice and struggle. Together, they formed a powerful bond, underscoring the resilience of their community. In that moment, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could rise together. And then it hit her. A bold idea began to take shape. What if they created something that would help other struggling families, forge connections, and share resources? As she prepared to present her plan, she stood before a room filled with apprehensive faces, her heart pounding in unison with the ticking clock. But then, just as she began to speak, a voice erupted from the crowd, casting doubt over her intentions. Their eyes narrowed, the air thickened with skepticism. Sarah's confidence teetered on a precarious edge. Would they allow her to champion change? The true battle was unfolding. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every word, Sarah felt the weight of her neighbors' expectations pressing upon her. Could she unify a community that was suddenly divided? The stakes were high, and the path to change loomed ominously ahead, shrouded in uncertainty. As she took a deep breath, anticipation and fear coiling together, one powerful thought pierced through the cloud of doubt. She had to try. Would they rally to her vision? Or would this be another dream deferred? The answers hung in the air, tantalizingly close yet just out of reach. The room fell silent, the weight of Sarah's project pressing down like an anvil. She glanced at the faces before her, some familiar, some wavering in skepticism. But in that silence, a flicker of resilience ignited within her. Sarah gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles turning white. Every hesitant heartbeat reminded her of what was on the line, not just for her, but for all those families whose stories mirrored her own. Listen, she started, her voice trembling at first, but growing steadier with each word. I know many of you are worried. You're wondering if I'm just a single mother looking for a handout or trying to take advantage of your kindness. But I swear to you, I am right here, ready to work with all of you. She paused, letting her gaze sweep over the crowd. I want to create a community space, a support center where families like ours can come together, share resources, and help each other. Imagine a place where we can hold workshops, learn skills, and maybe even set up a small marketplace to sell homemade goods and crafts. We can grow together. Her words hung in the air, stirring whispers among the crowd. A few faces softened, but others remained skeptical. As silence enveloped them again, she felt a surge of hope mixed with the heat of anxiety. Just then, Nancy, an elderly woman from down the street, stood up. Sarah, that sounds lovely. But do you have a plan? Let me show you, Sarah replied, her heart racing. She unfurled a large paper from under the table, revealing a simple sketch of the center, complete with ideas for workshops and spaces for community events. There was a collective gasp, eyes widening as they took in her vision. I believe this can work, she exclaimed, desperation knitting her brow. With your help, we can find a location, raise funds, and pull together resources. There are so many of us who feel alone. Imagine how strong we could be if we united. Mark, the CEO, who had quietly entered the room earlier, felt a swell of admiration for Sarah. He stepped forward, the murmurs fading as the crowd turned their attention to him. I've seen what Sarah is willing to fight for. I know the joy of coming together as a community. His words ignited a flicker of hope. What if my team organized a fundraiser? We can gather local businesses, schools, and churches to pitch in. Everyone can contribute in some way. A spark lit in Sarah's chest as people began to nod, murmurs of agreement washing over her like a warm tide. It was happening. But just as she felt the tide turning, another voice sliced through the optimism. And what if it fails, Sarah? What if this is just a big dream? The doubt lingered thicker than before. Doubt that echoed Sarah's own insecurities. But all those others watching and waiting needed this. They needed to see a path forward. Even if it stumbles, she replied boldly, we'll learn. People come together, and we press on. It starts with one step. With that, the unease shifted. Another neighbor, a father of 3, stood up with a grin. I'll help organize the first event. We could do a bake sale. Laughter broke the tension, and Sarah felt her spirits lift. People were stepping forward, ideas igniting like fireworks. Maybe, just maybe, they could build something beautiful together. But then a thought prickled at her mind, an underlying fear that bubbled to the surface. Could this old town truly change? Could they break down the barriers of prejudice and pave a new way? As ideas flowed and enthusiasm filled the air, Sarah's heart swelled with hope. But what would be the price of change? Would they rise for each other? Or would the very doubts that haunted them all creep back in? Gathering her courage, she knew there were still battles ahead, and this was just the beginning. Little did she know, a storm was brewing in the hearts of others who had been left in the shadows. Would they join the fight, or would fear keep them at bay? The next step loomed ahead, uncertain but full of promise, and Sarah could feel the eyes of change watching her closely. As the excitement buzzed through the room, Sarah felt her heart lift. Neighbors were exchanging smiles and ideas, their spirits igniting into something tangible. But just as the clamor of hope reached a crescendo, the school bell rang outside, jolting everyone back to the reality of their lives. Children filled the streets, laughter mingling with the sounds of distant traffic. These were the same children for whom Sarah envisioned a brighter future. Yet doubt crept back into her mind. This rosy vision felt fragile, like a bubble ready to burst. Okay, everyone, Sarah said, trying to steady her voice, we have to focus. We can start fresh, but let us not forget what has held us back. We need to plan, we need to come together. Mark nodded, a determined look on his face. I can help with logistics. We can set up a committee. Let us divide responsibilities. Each of you will have a role to play. As he spoke, Sarah felt a warmth spread within her. These people were not just passive observers. They were allies, figures in her story waiting to be galvanized into action. Hands shot up around her as proposals fluttered in the air. A bake sale was just the beginning. Others suggested a community picnic, crafting nights, and even home-cooked dinners to share traditions. This is something bigger than all of us, Sarah said, her voice rising with conviction. We're going to create connections, families supporting families. It might seem like a dream, but every movement starts with that first step. Someone joked about Sarah providing the baked goods, sending ripples of laughter through the room. But it was met with a knowing murmur from the others. They understood, they felt the weight of her words. But an undercurrent of tension lingered. Some in the crowd, though softened by Sarah's enthusiasm, still wore skeptical expressions. Several glances darted towards the back, where a small group of faces hidden behind their neighbors remained neutral, even a bit cynical. "Hey, why are you not joining in?" Sarah asked, making her way towards them. They shifted uncomfortably, the boldness of her invitation piercing through their hesitance. "What are you thinking?" One of the men, a burly figure with arms crossed tightly, stepped forward. "Why should we trust this will work, Sarah? We've seen efforts like this fizzle out too many times." His bluntness hung thick in the air, like a cold draft. Sarah's heart raced again, the doubt he expressed echoing loudly. "I'm scared too. But why not try? Even if we make mistakes, we can fix them together. Isn't that worth something?" Mark chimed in, "You're right. Trust is earned. But what if we all started taking those steps together?" For someone like Sarah, it's not only about building a space, it's about believing in the power of community. Slowly, the atmosphere softened. People around them began to nod, murmuring in agreement. The man from the back slowly uncrossed his arms, a hint of the hope stirring within. Just then, Nancy interjected, "I can't remember the last time our neighborhood came together like this. Maybe this time we can prove that we're stronger united." Encouraged by her words, others began sharing their fears and aspirations. The air felt electrified with possibilities. They were weaving the first threads of connection, a fabric that could hold against doubt and fear. But even as their spirits lifted, the question loomed large: what if the road ahead was not as smooth as they hoped? As Sarah watched her neighbors come alive with purpose, she felt both exhilaration and trepidation. Would the budding spark of unity be enough to face the trials that lay ahead? In that moment, an unexpected knock on the door echoed through the room, cutting through the shared excitement like a sudden storm. Everyone turned, silent anticipation enveloping them. Who could it be? And what could they want? This new visitor could change everything. The silence hung thick, the weight of countless possibilities hanging in the air. Sarah's heart raced as she moved closer to the door, her breath quickening. She peered through the glass and caught a glimpse of a sleek car parked outside. The sight sent an electric thrill through her. This was not the face of a typical visitor in their neighborhood. Mark shared a quick glance with her, both of them feeling the tension wrap around them like a tightly spun web. What if the arrival of this person brought positive change? Or what if it brought more barriers? "Should I?" Sarah hesitated, her hand lingering on the doorknob. "Yeah, open it," Mark urged, a mix of curiosity and excitement ringing in his voice. With a deep breath, Sarah turned the knob and swung the door open. Standing before her was a tall woman, impeccably dressed with a warm smile that could light up a room. She introduced herself, her voice smooth and inviting. "Hi, I'm Claire Thompson, the CEO of Thompson Solutions. I heard about your meeting and felt compelled to stop by." Gasps echoed behind Sarah as neighbors exchanged incredulous looks. Claire, a well-known name in the community, was regarded with a mix of respect and distance, her success somewhat larger than life. "Thank you for coming," Sarah started, trying to steady her nervousness. "We're discussing ways to bring our community together and support each other." "That's exactly why I'm here," Claire interrupted gently, her eyes scanning the crowded room. "I want to help. I think what you're trying to do is something special." Her confidence was infectious, seeping into everyone's hearts. Questions bubbled up in the crowd, eager to learn what this new ally might offer. "What kind of help can you give?" someone asked, and Sarah felt the tension shift. "Resources, programs, maybe even funding for community events," Claire explained. "I believe that if you invest in relationships, you can create lasting change. I want to see you thrive." A murmur of hope rippled through the room. The man who had questioned Sarah earlier stepped forward, disbelief etched across his face. "But why us? Why now?" "Because every community is a family, and I've seen enough neighborhoods struggle. I want to change the narrative to show that we can come together, despite our differences. You're the heart of this neighborhood, and I'm here to support that." Suddenly, the weight of doubt Sarah had felt began to lift. Claire's presence radiated possibility. The flicker of skepticism melted away, moving toward the warmth of new alliances. It was crazy to think help was knocking at their door, but how could they turn this down? Imagine a neighborhood festival, Claire continued, her voice weaving dreams. A place where we can share our cultures, our stories. Where families can come together and celebrate. Laughter and excitement filled the room again as ideas flowed, building upon each other. Suddenly, plans felt tangible, the hope of a vibrant community no longer a distant dream. But as Sarah looked around, she noticed one person staring from the back. Lucy, a single mother struggling to make ends meet, had her arms crossed tightly. The frown on her face told a different story. Could this new connection really be trusted? Are these just empty promises? Lucy called out, her voice piercing through the joy. The room fell silent again, the air dense with uncertainty. Would Claire really be a catalyst for change, or was there more to the story? Sarah could sense the weight of those unanswered questions hanging heavily. Could they truly rely on this unexpected offer? Or would the joy of today quickly become the disappointment of tomorrow? As Claire met Lucy's gaze, a meaningful silence enveloped the room. Time seemed to freeze, holding its breath for what would come next. What would unfold? Would the community seize this chance or falter at the precipice of fear? Claire's smile remained steady, but Sarah could see the flicker of surprise in her eyes at Lucy's outburst. It was a moment pregnant with tension, one that could tip the scales toward unity or division. Sarah's heart stood still, waiting. I understand your concern, Lucy, Claire said, her tone soothing yet firm. Trust isn't given lightly, especially in our communities. But I'm not here to make a grand speech filled with empty promises. I want to take action. Lucy shifted her weight, her crossed arms remaining a barrier, but Sarah saw the slightest softening in her expression. Maybe this was a bridge. Maybe. Look, Claire continued, I faced my share of criticism where I work. It's easy to talk about change. It's much harder to actually follow through. But I'm committed. Let us take this one step at a time. We start by meeting with you, understanding your needs directly. Sarah watched as the crowd moved with her words. Claire's confidence shone a light into the corners where shadows of doubt lurked. The connectedness of the neighbors started to buzz again, people nodding along, feeling the shift. What if we set up a community committee? Mark suggested suddenly, his voice bubbling over with enthusiasm. We could meet regularly, banding together to find the best ways to support each other and refine these ideas you've introduced. Exactly, Claire exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. This is about collaboration. Your voices matter. You know the heartbeat of this neighborhood better than anyone else. Sarah felt the room pulse with energy as a new wave of hope washed over them. Ideas began to flow freely. Plans for cleanups, food drives, workshops, anything that elevated their community spirit was discussed with radiant enthusiasm. Laughter echoed again, mixed with the sounds of pens on paper as neighbors began noting down tasks and roles. But one voice stayed anchored in place. Hold on, Lucy interrupted, her voice rising over the rest. I don't want to sidestep my situation. Things aren't too easy for me right now. I can't afford to get my hopes up just for them to be crushed again. A heavy silence descended as everyone turned, the reality of Lucy's struggles resonating through the room like a solemn reminder. Unspoken fears hovered in the air. Sarah felt it too. Would they really come together, or would some be left in the dust? Then let us talk about that, Claire replied gently, her tone shifting. Lucy, why don't we meet? Just you and me. We can discuss what support you really need. I promise to listen. The warmth of Claire's offer began to penetrate Lucy's defenses. Her frown deepened as if wrestling with vulnerability, but Sarah could see her resolve wavering. I'll think about it, Lucy said finally, though her voice lacked its earlier firmness. Claire nodded, knowing this was the first step. That is all I ask. No pressure, just an open conversation. As the night rolled on, laughter erupted again, but now it felt layered with the promise of genuine connection. Plans morphed into something more than just ideas. They took root in shared experiences. The community gathered closer, hearts beating to the same hopeful rhythm. But as the excitement built, a nagging thought crossed Sarah's mind: what if Claire wasn't what she seemed? As neighbors filed out, buoyed by newfound dreams, Sarah lingered, watching Lucy loiter at the edge. Would she genuinely accept help, or slip back into isolation? The Quezitans simmered a fragile thread amid their blooming unity. Could this be the turning point for Lucy? Or would fear cause her to miss out on the hope being offered? The next morning, Sarah woke to golden sunlight spilling through her window. It felt like a new day, full of promise, but the weight of uncertainty still pressed down on her heart. Would she see the change Claire sparked within her community, or would fear hold them back? Over coffee, her mind kept drifting to Lucy. She imagined her struggles, dark circles under her eyes, worries swirling like storm clouds. Sarah knew she had to reach out. So armed with determination, she grabbed her phone and typed a quick message. "Hey Lucy, I wanted to check in on you. Let me know if you want to chat." The minutes ticked by, stretching into an hour, and Sarah felt a mix of anxiety and hope. Would Lucy respond? Finally, a little chime broke the silence. When she saw the text, her heart sank slightly. "Thanks, Sarah. I'll be okay." Disappointment washed over her. Sarah sighed and set her phone down. She wanted to lift Lucy up, but some days it felt like a daunting task, like trying to reach for a star that was just out of reach. Yet, she couldn't ignore her gut feeling something was changing in their neighborhood, and she had to be part of it. In the following days, Claire worked tirelessly to assemble the community committee. Meetings were filled with laughter and suggestions. They organized a food drive, painting signs and excitedly mapping out routes. Each success felt like a victory, igniting a passion Sarah hadn't realized she had. Yet, there was still a hole in that beautiful tapestry, a thread that remained frayed. During a meeting one evening, Sarah caught Claire's eye. "What about Lucy?" she asked. "Have we checked in on her?" Claire nodded, rubbing her neck in thought. "You're right. I think she has been keeping her distance. Let us brainstorm some gentle ways to encourage her involvement." As they spoke, a plan took shape. They agreed to host a community potluck, an inviting gathering that would naturally encourage Lucy and provide the warmth of shared stories and laughter. Both Claire and Sarah infused their ideas with genuine concern, hoping it would help Lucy feel welcome. The day of the potluck arrived, and the sun blazed brightly. Neighbors drifted in and out, sharing dishes ranging from spicy jambalaya to sweet apple pie. The aroma enveloped the park, creating an atmosphere of warmth and nostalgia. Laughter filled the air, and for a moment, it felt like nothing could dim their spirits. But as Sarah scanned the crowd, her heart sank. Lucy was a no-show. "Maybe she just needs more time," Mark suggested, trying to reassure her as he ladled out chili. "We can't rush someone when they're not ready." "True," Claire agreed, a touch of concern etching her brow. "But we can definitely keep the door open." Just then, Sarah caught a glimpse through the trees. Lucy stood hesitantly at the edge of the park, clutching a small dish. Her breath caught. It was a moment suspended in time. Would Lucy step into the light and allow herself to be part of this blossoming community? Sarah could almost feel her heart race, the tension pulling tighter. This was at the moment of choice. Would Lucy choose connection or retreat further into the shadows of her isolation? As the crowd laughed and shared, a question lingered in the air: what would Lucy decide? Sarah's breath hitched as she watched Lucy linger at the edge of the park, uncertainty etched on her face. The moment felt fragile, like a delicate flower about to bloom. Would Lucy, with all her fears and worries, take that step forward toward connection or hold on to her solitude? Encouraged by instinct, Sarah stepped away from the food tables, her heart thumping with each stride. It was loud around her, the clinks of glass and hearty laughter from families, kids playing tag in the sunlight. Yet, all she could focus on was Lucy. The weight of her friend's struggle threatened to swallow her whole, but Sarah refused to let it. "Lucy," she called out, her voice threading through the clamor. Lucy flinched at the sound, glancing in Sarah's direction, her expression flickering between dread and a reluctant hope. "Hey, I'm so glad to see you," Sarah said, trying to infuse her voice with warmth. "I've missed you." Lucy shifted, her insecurity palpable. "I didn't know if I would fit in," she admitted, her voice barely above the rustling leaves. Sarah stepped closer, close enough to feel Lucy's warmth, but not intrusively so. "You belong here. We all want you here. You don't have to face things alone." The light breeze tousled Lucy's hair, and she looked down at the dish. She had brought a simple bowl of pasta salad, a symbol of her reluctant participation, or perhaps a bridge reaching out. "I wasn't sure I could do it," she confessed, her vulnerability striking. "Start with just one plate," Sarah encouraged, nodding toward the vibrant blanket spread out on the grass, the delicious dishes waiting to welcome her. "Join us. Just be yourself." After a heartbeat, Lucy took a hesitant step forward, her eyes scanning the gathering. A mixture of worry and hope glimmered in her expression. Okay, she exhaled, almost like a whisper of resolve. I'll try. As they walked toward the heart of the potluck, Sarah felt a surge of triumph. She could feel the smile growing on her face, seeing how Lucy instinctively began to relax as she caught sight of familiar faces, neighbors who had once greeted her at the grocery store, but now seemed to glow with kindness. The tension eased as they reached the eager group. Claire was quick to spot them and waved excitedly, pulling Lucy into a warm hug. It felt like magic, a simple gesture that melted away walls built by time and doubt. Laughter erupted as people exchanged food, stories, and, most importantly, smiles. Lucy's initial hesitance began to soften as she shared her dish with others, laughter bubbling up from inside her. But just as Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief, the unease from earlier slipped back in. They had made progress, yes, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Would Lucy sustain this connection? Would she find comfort after years of isolation? Or were those shadows still lurking at the edge of her heart? The sun started to dip lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over their gathering, and for a moment, it felt perfect. Yet, Sarah's mind was spinning, caught between hope and apprehension. As she looked at Lucy, brightening beneath the laughter, a single thought struck her: how fragile a moment could be, and how easily it could still slip away. Suddenly, the evening air was pierced by the laughter of children chasing each other, igniting something deep within Sarah. A question burned in her mind. How far could this connection reach? Would it be enough to pull Lucy completely out of her shadows? And what would it take to keep that light shining? The answers felt tantalizingly close, yet just out of reach. The sun transformed the sky into a canvas of soft oranges and purples, the warm colors reflecting off Lucy's face as she looked around the gathering. A genuine smile crept onto her lips, her laughter mingling with the sounds of joy around her. It was intoxicating, like sipping a cool drink on a hot day. Yet, beneath the surface, Sarah could feel threads of anxiety tightening in her chest. She watched Lucy engage with Claire, who animatedly shared stories about a recent hiking trip. They were leaning in closely, laughing and wide-eyed, and for a second, everything felt perfect. But Sarah's heart sank as she remembered how quickly such moments could unravel. "Hey, Sarah," a voice called out. It was Mark, an old friend from high school, waving from a distance, his arms laden with desserts. She turned to him, thankful for the distraction. "Want to try my famous brownies? I added an extra layer of chocolate just for this event." "Mark, you can't keep calling them famous if the only one who has ever had them is your mom," Sarah teased, nudging him lightly. The warmth of their banter felt good, a light-hearted reminder of her own hidden fears. "What is a home event without my signature sweets?" He chuckled, handing her a piece. Sarah bit into it, and a wave of rich chocolate spread warmth through her. She savored it, but then glanced back at Lucy, catching her in a moment of stillness. Lucy stood at the edge of the crowd, eyes downcast. The laughter that was so vibrant moments ago seemed to fade, replaced with the familiar heaviness that threatened to press down hard. The warmth flickered in Sarah's chest again, that nagging fear creeping back. "Excuse me, Mark. I'll be right back," Sarah said quickly, placing the brownie down. As she made her way through the gathering, she reached Lucy just as the shadows of doubt tipped into loneliness. "Hey, you okay?" Sarah asked gently, the concern threading through her voice. Lucy looked up, surprised. "Yeah, I don't want to be a burden," she whispered, unease creeping back into her tone, a stark contrast to the laughter enveloping them. "You could never be a burden," Sarah stated clearly, feeling her heart ache for her friend. "You're not alone in this. Reach out. Tell us how you're feeling. We care about you." Lucy nodded slowly, but Sarah saw the doubt still lingering in her eyes. The moment felt raw, yet it simmered with the potential for change. "Want to help me serve the next round of food?" she suggested, hoping the simple act would bridge the gap. Just as Lucy seemed to open up, a sudden loud crash shattered the air, a wooden table tipping over, causing dishes to scatter across the grass. Gasps erupted as the crowd turned their attention to the commotion. Sarah's heart raced. "Stay here. I'll check it out," she said quickly, but as she turned, she caught one last glimpse of Lucy. The smile had vanished. It was replaced by an expression of distress that pierced her heart. What would this mean for Lucy, who had just begun to explore connection. Sarah couldn't shake the thought that the evening's joy was fragile, teetering on the edge of chaos. As she weaved through the gathering chaos, part of her wondered if they could still find a way back to that moment of laughter. Another loud crash echoed, this time accompanied by sharp, frantic cries of concern. She felt her pulse quicken. Was this the moment that would deepen Lucy's retreat back into her shadows, or would they rally together, turning chaos into connection? The answer hung in the air like suspended frost, waiting to unveil itself. Sarah navigated the scattered dishes and startled guests, her senses heightened with urgency. The crowd had shifted from laughter to a swirl of emotions, disbelief and concern taking center stage. She focused on the clamor, pushing through the cascade of confusion to reach where the table had toppled. As she stepped closer, the scene came into view. A man, Daniel, was on the ground, his face pale and strained. He was surrounded by a few people, their expressions a mix of alarm and care. Sarah felt a rush of fear grip her. He always was the life of any gathering. "Daniel," she called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. He looked up, a weak smile flickering, but it quickly faded into a wince. "I'm okay, I think I just tripped," he whispered, trying to reassure the concerned faces around him. His bravado felt fragile, as if the underlying hurt was just waiting to spill over. "We need to get him up," a woman said, glancing nervously around. "What if he has hurt his back?" Before Sarah could respond, the onlookers around Daniel shifted anxiously. She stepped into the circle, determined to help. "Let us lift him gently," she suggested, positioning herself near his shoulders. The others followed her lead, creating a makeshift support. As they maneuvered him back onto his feet, Sarah caught sight of Lucy at the edge of the crowd. Her friend's face was a mask of worry, her eyes darting to Daniel and back to Sarah. In moments like these, connections weren't just about laughter. They often revealed deeper bonds, rooted in care and understanding. With Daniel leaning heavily on her shoulder, Sarah turned her voice low to him. "Do you feel dizzy?" "A bit, but I'm good," he insisted, his bravado failing him again. "Just breathe, okay? We've got you," she replied. She glanced back at Lucy, who seemed frozen, her earlier anxiety now replaced with an overwhelming concern. It struck Sarah how quickly shifts in situation could alter emotions, how laughter could evaporate, leaving something raw in its place. As the guests murmured around them, she felt a surge of camaraderie beginning to rebuild. Their laughter, their stories, this community had the strength to support each other, even in moments of turmoil. Once Daniel was stabilized, and the murmurs of reassurance took hold, Sarah stole a worried glance at Lucy again. Their eyes met, and Sarah felt a connection ignite. The tension that had filled the air moments before melted slightly. Sarah knew this was an opportunity, a moment to weave back into the fabric of their friendship. "See, we all look out for each other," she said, smiling at Daniel, who was nodding along with uncertainty. "Let us go check on the dessert table next, huh? I hear there are brownies, and I am starving." Lucy took a tentative step toward her, her face brightening a fraction. "That sounds like a plan. I could use something sweet." With a sigh of relief, Sarah took Lucy's hand as they turned, leaving the chaos behind. Their earlier moment of connection danced back into view. "You know, I was worried about you," she admitted, wondering if Lucy would lean into the shared vulnerability. I froze back there," Lucy confessed, her voice softening. She shifted, looking at Sarah with those familiar troubled eyes. "What if that had been me? What if I couldn't connect with anyone?" "Hey," Sarah said, intertwining her fingers with Lucy's. "You're stronger than that. And you're definitely not alone. We're all finding our way in this." Just then, a loud cheer erupted nearby. Daniel was being lifted by a couple of friends, a smile breaking through as they teased him playfully about his clumsiness. It was the laughter that began weaving back into the gathering, a thread tying them all together. Yet, deep down, the question lingered. Would Lucy be able to push through her fears? Would the bonds they were forging be strong enough to carry them all forward? Sarah squeezed Lucy's hand tighter, ready to support whatever came next. But as she glanced back one more time, her heart filled with both hope and uncertainty. This wasn't just about celebration. It was about facing shadows together. As the potluck continued, the atmosphere shifted from uncertainty back to light as laughter echoed around them. rebuilding connections that had felt fragile only moments ago. Sarah watched as people started to gather closer, sharing stories with renewed excitement. The sun was dipping lower, painting the sky with a breathtaking mosaic of colors that mirrored the blossoming unity of the crowd. "Hey, look," Mark called, pointing as Daniel was teasingly paraded around by his friends. "The man of the hour. Next time, let us have a sign-in sheet, so we know who's bringing their A-game to the dance floor." Laughter erupted once again, and in that moment, fear began to fall away like autumn leaves. This was their community. This was what they were building together. Sarah's heart soared, but the worry about Lucy still lingered. "Let us get you a drink, okay?" Sarah suggested, motioning for Lucy to step away from the crowd for a moment. "I know these things can be overwhelming." "Thanks, Sarah," Lucy replied shyly, glancing around to take in more of the joyful celebration. "I didn't really think I'd come today, but I'm glad you encouraged me." As they made their way toward the refreshment table, Sarah felt the warmth radiating between them start to mend the gap that had formed. She wanted so much for Lucy to know she didn't have to be alone. "You belong here, you know. We're all figuring things out together." "I know," Lucy admitted softly, accepting a plastic cup of lemonade. "I guess I just didn't believe it until now." They fell into a comfortable silence as they leaned against the edge of the table, soaking in the scene around them. Families mixed seamlessly, laughter weaving into the stories that were shared. But Sarah caught a glimpse of Daniel in the distance, and the spark of concern lit up again. "Hey, if anyone needs anything, just raise your hand, okay?" Daniel said, standing closer to the center. "This is not just about food. We're in this together." A cheer rose from the crowd in response, an echo of solidarity. Lucy watched with a hesitant smile, but Sarah could still see doubt lurking in her friend's eyes. "Do you see what is happening? It's beautiful, I assent it." With a sigh, Lucy nodded, her fingers curling around the cold cup. "Yeah, but will it last? I'm scared I'll slip back into the shadows." "Look, I get it. That fear doesn't just disappear overnight," Sarah said, her tone serious but warm. "But what we're doing now, this is a start. You have all of us." She searched Lucy's eyes, hoping to convey her sincerity. "Let us promise each other, whenever one of us feels that doubt creeping back in, we'll reach out. Deal?" Lucy considered it for a moment, her smile toying at the corners of her mouth. "Deal. Good. Now let us go join the others." As they stepped back into the crowd, Sarah's heart swelled with hope. Just as they reached the heart of the gathering, Claire stepped forward again. "Everyone, thank you for making this such a success. This is just the beginning, and I want to hear from all of you. What can we do next?" Excited hands shot up all around. Ideas poured forth, infusing the air with a vibrant energy that ignited a shared vision for their community. The topics of new events, skill-sharing workshops, and even opportunities to help those experiencing homelessness filled the air. Sarah felt disbelief wash over her. This was the unity she had dreamt of. Amidst the exchange, Lucy found her voice. "What if we created a mentoring program? You know, families helping each other, especially with kids who might be struggling at school?" A hush fell across the gathering, a moment of pause before a wave of excitement surged. "That is a fantastic idea," Claire exclaimed, nodding enthusiastically. "We can organize this. Everyone here has skills we can share. Let us bring it to life." Sarah watched Lucy's confidence blossom before her eyes. She stepped forward, clearly excited now, elaborating on ideas and weaving them into the fabric of their community vision. As day turned to evening, the stars began to twinkle over Maplewood. The festival continued to thrive, the laughter resonating like music through the night. Sarah felt a shift within her too, as she glanced at Lucy and then toward the glowing faces of her neighbors. They had all been touched by something incredible today, something truly transformative. The shadows they carried weren't gone, but they didn't have to bear them alone anymore. As Lucy shared more about her vision, Sarah couldn't help but beam with pride. They were no longer isolated. They were connected, ready to embrace whatever came next together. It was a new beginning, and a beautiful one at that. With arms around one another, Lucy and Sarah were suddenly pulled into the triumphant chant of the community, their voices blending into the fabric of something much larger than themselves. Hope surged through Sarah's heart, and in the glow of the festival lights, she realized they were all stronger together. This community was alive, and together, they could tackle anything that lay ahead. If you are moved by this story of community and transformation, now is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire hope and change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others feel the warmth of these moments. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. How did it touch your heart? And don't wait, not even one more second. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.